Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's training on Find More Illinois. Here is our agenda for the session today. We're going to start out with a brief review of the project, and then we'll talk about the Find More Illinois workflow. The main focus of today's session is learning how to search for and place requests in Find More Illinois, both as a patron and as a staff member. So we're going to spend the bulk of our time going through those tasks. So let's go ahead and start with our project overview. I think most of you attending today are familiar with Find More Illinois, but let's go through the basics. Find More Illinois is a statewide resource sharing or interlibrary loan platform created and managed by Rails. So the project was started back in 2018, and any Illinois library is eligible to participate in Find More Illinois. Find More runs on Autographic's Share It software, so you're going to hear us talking about Share It a lot today. Both patrons and staff can log in to Share It to place and manage their ILL requests, and those filled requests are then delivered to the patron's pickup location through Rails delivery. So there are currently 60 libraries participating in Find More Illinois. That number will jump up to 90 when CCS finishes our implementations. Currently, the bulk of those libraries are public libraries with a handful of academic, school, and special libraries. So you can view a complete list of all Find More Illinois members online on the Find More Illinois website. CCS Governing Board voted to join Find More Illinois as a full consortia back at their November meeting, and we've committed to participating in the program through June of 2026. So we are going to participate in Find More for a period of 2 years, at which time Governing Board will reevaluate that full consortium membership. Most of our libraries will launch the software or the program from May through August of this year. We've got libraries kind of going live every week or two. You can find the full schedule on our CCS website. There are a couple of exceptions to that that I want to call attention to here. We have Highland Park and Northbrook launching the program in January of 2025. And then our newest libraries, Mount Prospect and Waukegan, we're going to give them until October 2025 to go live in Find More. Find More Illinois provides several benefits to CCS and the larger library community. So first of all, it provides our patrons greater access to materials owned by other Illinois libraries. Then in return, we can easily share out our collections with Find More members. Now, the software used by Find More Illinois integrates with Polaris in a really seamless manner, which will help streamline the interlibrary loan experience for both patrons and for staff. So let's dive into how it all works. First, a vocabulary review. So we have Find More Illinois. Again, as I just mentioned, that's the resource sharing or ILL program provided and supported by Rails. Another term you'll hear us talk about a lot today is Share It. Share It is the software that powers Find More Illinois. Autographics is the company that provides the Share It software. So just like Innovative Interfaces provides the Polaris software to us, Autographics is the company that provides Share It. NSIP is another term you might not be familiar with. NSIP is a communication protocol that allows Share It and Polaris to connect and talk to each other. So through NSIP, again, we've got a lot of information being passed back and forth between those two systems. Z3950 is another communication protocol. This one allows Share It to search each Find More Illinois member library for up-to-date information on an item availability. So which items are available, which are checked out, etc. Now, I know we're all familiar with the term interlibrary loan. That's a process by which a library requests material from or supplies material to a different library. In CCS, we ILL materials every day when we send materials back and forth between our member libraries. The term we usually use for sharing materials with other CCS libraries is intra-CCS lending or intra-CCS ILL. But Find More is what we consider kind of extra CCS interlibrary loan. So we're sharing materials with other libraries who are not part of our consortium, just like you do with OCLC WorldShare. So let's jump into that Share It workflow. As I mentioned, today's session is going to focus on searching and placing requests, but it's really helpful to know that big picture. So, the first step to initiating a request in ShareIt is to search for the title in the ShareIt interface. So, when you or a patron find that title that you're looking for, you'll log in and place a hold on it. On the back end, ShareIt will identify a lending library that has a copy of that title available, and the title will then be placed on that library's pick list. Now, the lending library, or the library that's been marked to supply the request, will pull the item from their shelves, mark the item as shipped, and place the item in Rails delivery. The item then goes on its merry way in the Rails delivery van until it arrives at the borrowing library. The borrowing library will receive the item and place it on the hold shelf for the patron. The patron comes to pick up their item and checks it out, and then they return it to your library when they're finished. When the item is returned and the patron's finished using it, the borrowing library will check the item in and then place it back in Rails delivery to be returned to the lending library. Now, when the item arrives at the lending or owning library, it will be checked in and placed back on their shelf. So this works very much like intra-CCS lending does, with the difference being that several tasks will happen in the ShareIt software. So let's dive into how staff and patrons can search for and request materials in ShareIt. Each library will have their own unique ShareIt site and URL. We have the links available for libraries in that first cohort on our website, so you can find them there if you search for Find More Illinois. CCS will also add links to your library's catalog in PowerPack. So I'm going to show you some of the different options that you have, and we'll work with your library on your specific customization. Libraries can also add a link to your website. So you can see here in my screenshot, this is a screenshot of the Helen Plum's website. They have an interlibrary loan page on which they have linked both to WorldCat, and they've also linked to Find More Illinois there. So let's jump over to PowerPack so I can show you what patrons will see once your library is live in Find More Illinois. All right, so now here I am in Morton Grove's Training PowerPack. So I'm going to be working in the training catalog today because we're not live yet on Find More. So I'm going to be working here in training with some of the examples I've mocked up. Once you're live, there will be a couple of ways for patrons to get to ShareIt from PowerPack. And I've mocked a few of those examples here in Morton Grove's training catalog. So like I mentioned, CCS will work with your library's project lead to get those configured. So the first is a link on your library's header or menu here at the top. Patrons can click this link and it will take them directly to ShareIt where they can complete their search. Another way is to add a link to find more in your library's dashboards, which can be found here on the left-hand side of your catalog landing page. So in Morton Grove's training catalog, I have in their request an item dashboard, I've added an additional link that directs patrons to search other Illinois libraries through Find More. So a patron could click this link and it will take them to the Find More interface. Another way is a redirect that patrons will encounter if their search turns up no results. So let's say that I'm a patron and I'm searching in the catalog for a title that's not owned in CCS. So I'm going to search for Try This at Home by Frank Turner. And when I initiate the search, PowerPack does not find any matching records. But I can see in my No Results Found window that I now have an additional search suggestion that lets me know I can search additional Illinois libraries through Find More Illinois. So I can either click the hyperlink or this graphic to be redirected to the Find More Illinois or ShareIt interface. So when I click either link, I'm taken to the ShareIt interface for the library whose catalog I was searching in. Now, normally what should happen and it doesn't seem to be working today, is that a piece of JavaScript will be taking the patron's search terms from PowerPack and reinitiating that search in the Share It software. So that did not work in today's example. So I am really sorry about that, but we'll get that fixed before any libraries go live. So here we can see that, again, my search terms have been entered, my search has been initiated, and from here, I can see the title that matches my search term, Try This at Home, Adventures in Songwriting by Frank Turner, show at the top of my search results. If this is the title that I want, I can click this handy request button, log in, and place my request. So I'm not going to place a hold on this title just yet. So let's take a look at the Share It interface and layout together. In the upper left-hand corner, we can see based on the logo that I'm in the Morton Grove Share It interface. Underneath that, I have a home button that will send me to the home page and reset my page. There's also a link to all of the libraries currently participating in Find More Illinois if I'm curious to see that list. Now, in the center of my menu bar, we have the search box. So this is where patrons will type in their search terms and initiate their search. Patrons do have the option to change the index they're searching by. Now, most patrons will want to search all fields, but they can also change it to author, title, subject, etc. To the left of the drop-down menu, you'll see the option to switch the language of the page. Selecting a language other than English will translate that page into the selected language. On the far right of the search box, we see that there is also the option to complete an advanced search. So for patrons who are a little bit savvier with their searching skills, they can take advantage of that feature. Now, in the upper right-hand corner of the page, you'll see the login button. Patrons will log in to Share It with their Polaris library card number and PIN. And we're going to do that in just a minute. Now, because I've already initiated a search here, we can see a few search options below the login button. So first, you have the opportunity to change how records are grouped. Now, by default, Share It is rolling up similar records that match on title and author. If you wanted to, you could unroll them with no grouping, or you can adjust how they're grouped by also including publisher and date. Now, to the right, you can adjust the sort. By default, it's set to relevance, but you could change it to title or author. You can also adjust how many results or how many records display on a page. The default is 40, but you can increase or decrease depending on your preference. And then here at the far right, we can switch from list view to gallery view if you prefer how that looks. I like list view, so we're going to stick with that. Now, in the center of the screen, we have all of the titles that match the search terms that we entered. So we'll see the formats available for each title, as well as a request button for formats that only have a single record associated with them. We also see an option to add a title to your list. So patrons can save lists to their account when they log in, and they can also print or email that list. Now, to the left of the search results, we have our facets or filters. Users can filter by format, by subject, by series, by date, and more. So to apply a filter, you'll just check the box next to that value. So if I wanted to perhaps limit to a format of book, I'll check the box to the left of the book format. Now, Share It has dynamic filtering, so the filter should automatically apply once it's selected. Now, any selected filters will also show up at the top of your search results, so you can remove them either by checking the box in this location or again on checking the facet to the left. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to log in now. So I'm going to go to the upper right-hand corner and click that Please Log In button. On the login page, I'm asked to select my library. So it should default to the library whose ShareIt site you're in. Any CCS patron will be able to log into any CCS ShareIt site. So here I'm going to type in my barcode and then my PIN number and click Submit. So now I'm all logged in. I'll see my name in the upper right-hand corner and a link to some different account settings. So if I click the Your Account drop-down menu, I do want to call attention to the Your Items section. Underneath the Your Items section, I can see a link to items from other libraries. Now, if I click that, I would see all of the materials that I currently have requested in ShareIt. Right now, I unfortunately don't have any materials requested in ShareIt here, but when I do place holds, I will see them populate this page. So now I'm going to go ahead and initiate a new search so that I can demo how to place a request. So I'm going to search for FMI test as my keyword. So I am working right now in a live ShareIt site. So I do want to make sure that I'm working only with test records set up by Rails. So I apologize for kind of the search examples that I'll be using. So again, I'm going to type in FMI test, and I'm going to tap enter on my keyboard or click this little magnifying glass to initiate my search. So once I type in my search terms and click enter, I can see that in this case, I have 53 titles that match my search terms. So I can scroll through the results until I find the title that I'm looking for and want to request. So let's say I am looking for Be Brave Little Pup. I'm going to go ahead and, say, all right, I've identified this is the title I'm looking for. I did want the book format. This is the right thing. I'm going to click this request button. When I click the request button, it takes me to the hold request screen, and it defaults to the returnable tab because again, I am borrowing a physical item, not seeking out like a copy. Now we can see that in this request form, most of the information is auto-populated. So I can see the title, the author, the publisher. Again, this is a test record, so you'll see just a lot of default information here. But in a real record, you would see real values for things like the ISBN. So all of this information is being pulled directly from the record I'm requesting, so I don't have to type it in again. Now, if I was requesting something like manga, something on a multi-volume set, I would also want to make sure I'm inputting a volume in the volumes needed field. The need by date is auto-populated to be 21 days, but if I needed it sooner or kind of had a more generous time period in which I needed this item, I could adjust the date here. Please note that FindMore will not let a patron select a need by date that is less than 7 days, just because we want to make sure we're allowing plenty of time for the item to be pulled and sent in transit. And then I will pick my pickup location. Now, normally this is auto-populated to the library that you're in or your default pickup location, but there's currently a bug impacting this, so the patron may need to select that again. You can see here my account information is already set up. So this information is being pulled in from my Polaris library account. So I don't need to re-enter in even my contact information. So once I've completed filling out the form, I'm going to click Submit to place the request. So as FindMore is thinking, all right, there we go. I receive a confirmation that my ILL request has been placed and that the system will be checking for lenders. So once I see this screen, I know my request has been placed and I can click OK. So I'm going to do some more searches because I want to show you a situation that might happen fairly often. So let me do a search for Pride and Prejudice. So now you can see for this first hit, I have several formats represented. So I have Blu-ray, I have book, I have DVD, I have visual materials. For the Blu-ray and for the book material types or formats, I do see a request button here. However, I don't see a request button for the DVD format. And that's because this is an example of a record where multiple DVD bid records have been rolled up together. So if I want to place a hold on the DVD, I'll click that format, and this will direct me to kind of a secondary page that lists out the individual records that had been rolled up in the search results. Now, in this scenario, the patron or the staff member would want to place the request on the record that has the most items to give the patron, again, the best chance for success when placing this request. So if I kind of scroll through here, I've got like 222, but there is one that has 14 copies owned and attached. So here I will want to request this record because, again, it has the most copies. Now here it does some additional matching on the back end to include additional bibs aside from those included in this roll-up, but just as a best practice, it's good to place the request on the one, again, that has that most copies. And I'm just going to go back to my account and see if that request I had placed is showing up yet. Aha, and there it is. So you can see that now I see my Be Brave Little Pup request listed in my items from other libraries list, and I can see that the status is awaiting reply for one or more from one or more potential lending libraries. So I can kind of keep track of my requests and the status if I look at this landing page in my account. So now I'm going to log out of my patron account. And I'm going to log in as a staff member. So I'm going to go back to the login screen. So note that both staff and patrons will be using the same login screen. Patrons will be entering their library card number and their PIN when they log in. Staff member will be using their individual username and password set up by Rails. So your library submitted a list of staff users to CCS, but we can always add additional staff accounts as needed. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to type in my individual username, and I'm going to type in my password. And I'm going to click submit. One thing you do want to make sure when you're logging in, I'm gonna log out just to go back to that screen one more time. You want to make sure that you're selecting as a staff member the correct library. So your login, your staff login, is only valid at your location, so you can't log into a different library's ShareIt site. One other thing to call your attention to on the login page is this forgot your password option. So this option will appear for both staff and for patrons, but for patrons, it will not reset their Polaris PIN number. But unfortunately, we can't remove it from this screen. For staff, this will allow you to reset your staff password. So if you do forget your staff PIN or your staff password, you can use this link to reset it. And it is tied to the email associated with your account, which should be your individual email address. So patrons who are unsure of their Polaris password will need to request a change through PowerPack or ask staff for assistance with resetting it. All right, so I'm going to log in again. Once I click login or submit, I will be logged in as a staff member. So much of this screen is the same as it was with the patron. We have the same menu bar up at the top with the search box. We can see, though, that we now have access to a staff dashboard, which is what has opened by default when I logged in. Now, the main users of staff functions within ShareIt are going to be your ILL staff. So we cover all of those functions in depth in the in-person ILL training we've been offering and will be offering throughout the summer. So for today, I'm just going to give you a brief overview of those features. Again, if you want a deep dive, sign up for that ILL training that we're offering in person. So in your staff dashboard, which can be accessed uh, through the link in your header, you have access to your quick links right here on your left-hand side. So your quick links give you shortcuts to different modules within ShareIt. You can update your quick links under the heart menu in the upper right-hand corner. So you can rearrange the order. You can delete quick links that already have been added. You can also add additional quick links by selecting the plus sign next to any menu item. So if there is a function that you frequently use, you can go ahead and add those to your quick links. Next to your quick links, we have your ILL admin menu, where the bulk of your ILL settings and tasks live. So I'm going to come back to these in just a little bit. Next to your ILL admin menu, we have your statistics module. This will allow you to run some canned reports, like an activity report, so you can use these to generate stats for your monthly board reports. And then we have our support section, where you can access the user guides and documentation for ShareIt that are provided by Autographics. So there's some really handy stuff in the ShareIt user guide for you to review. So before we jump into that ILL admin menu, let's go over how to search and place requests as a staff member, because it is a little bit different than placing requests as a patron. So the searching part is essentially the same as we demoed earlier in the session. The biggest difference is that we have access to a few more search indices, like let's say OCLC number or even the Autographics control number. But again, search results are going to be displayed in the same way, and you'll really complete your search in the same way you did before. So let me just go ahead and generate that search. We can see that results are kind of displayed in the same way. And just like patrons did, you will see a request icon that will allow you to place a request on behalf of a patron. So let's just say I'm looking for this title, Coco, for a patron. When I click the request button, I'm taken to a ShareIt patron lookup screen. So here I'll enter the patron's barcode that I'm placing the request for. So let's just say I am going to place a request for this patron. I'm going to type in their barcode and I'm going to click search. Oh, well, that didn't quite go as I had planned. Hold on one sec. Okay, I can never remember all of my test patron barcodes, so I think this time it's gonna work. All right, so I've typed in my patron's barcode, I've clicked search, and then it will retrieve the matching patron account, that patron account that matches with that barcode. I do have the option here to also search by additional fields in the patron record, including last name and first name, address, email, etc. But the best way to search is by barcode. So a patron's additional information will not be indexed here until they have logged in or had a request placed for them. So the best way to search, again, is by their barcode. So after I've typed in my barcode and clicked search, again, I will see the matching patron account listed below. To select that account, I will click it. So that's all you have to do is just click the matching patron account that you want to place the request for. And Find More is thinking here. Thinking very slowly. Usually it is much faster. Okay, there we go. So this will then bring me to the request screen. This will pull up, again, that request screen. It looks very similar to what we saw before when placing the request from the patron side. At the top of the request screen, I am asked to select the borrower, aka the pickup location. So that would be your library. And we can see here that it is currently defaulting to Morton Grove, which is the site that I'm logged into. If you need to, you can add in an internal staff note. This is a note just for other staff at your library. You can also, again, we've got all of this information being automatically pulled in from the title, but we can enter in, again, volumes needed if we are working with a multi-volume record. We can adjust the need by date as needed if it's more or less than the default 21 days. Because we looked up our patron, we can see that their details are already input here. If you needed to, you could also, if you found the wrong patron, you could look up a different patron account and select it there. Now, if you needed to, you can add in a note for any potential lending libraries. So for example, perhaps you need an extended due date or the patron needs an extended due date and so on. And then again, we've got your library's location entered here, so we are good to go. I'm going to just click that submit button. Now, once I click that submit button, I'm going to receive verification that the request has been placed. So here we have that confirmation that the request has been successfully placed. And now the request is like in the hands of ILL staff. Okay, so now I want to show you how to place a multi-copy request if needed for, let's say, a book club. So you can only do this as a staff member. Patrons cannot do this when they're logged in with their barcode. So let's say our book club is reading Legendborn. So I'm going to type my search into the search box and initiate my search. Here I have my list of search results. So when I find the correct format and title I'm looking for, in this example book, I can go ahead and click that format to open the secondary screen, which shows me the different records rolled up into that result. So here I'm just going to take a look. I see this record has 35 copies on it. Let's say I need 5, so this one should have all the copies I need. So here I'm going to click on the cover art to open the full record for that title. So here I can see on the full record page, I can see all of the libraries that own this title. If I wanted to, I could do a shelf check status just to confirm that these copies are on the shelf. But then here on the left-hand side, I see a link to place a multi-copy request. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click that link. This is going to take me to the patron lookup screen. So this looks familiar. We saw this earlier when placing a hold on a single copy. So I'll do the same thing, type in my patron's barcode and click search. When I find the account I want to place this multi-copy request on, I will select it at the bottom of my screen. And then I can see that currently what's happening is ShareIt does a Z3950 search to search for all available copies and lenders. So it's just doing a search to see how many available copies are out there, because that will determine how many copies that I'm able to request. So I can only request as many copies are available. It's going to take a long time to search here, so I'm just going to click stop. From here, I will complete the rest of that hold request form. So this should look pretty similar to what we saw before. I want to make sure I'm selecting the correct borrower library, which is your library, likely if you're placing the request. All of the details about the title are input here. It's being pulled automatically from that record. I can input, if it was a multi-volume request or multi-volume title, I can input the volumes I need. I can select my need by date. And then here we have our lender list. So the lender list is actually a list of all of the libraries that have had copies that were found to be available. Then we have the patron's name. Again, this is being pulled in from the patron's account of the barcode we selected. And here's something new. I do have to specify the number of copies I need. So let's just say it's 5. Now in my borrower's note, this is a good place to put like your preferred due date. So like I could put in a note, book club need until August 1. The ship to name is automatically populated depending on your pickup location. And then here I could just click submit to place that request. I'm not going to place this, so I'm just going to click cancel. Now, I mentioned earlier that a patron's request will not show up in Polaris until the item has arrived at your library and has been received, at which point the item will be tracked or put on hold for the patron and then checked out. So, what if a patron wants an update on their request sooner than that? There's an easy way for staff to do that and share it under that ILL menu I mentioned before. So, I'm going to go ahead and open up my staff dashboard. So the ILL admin menu is broken out into two sections, the borrower section and the lender section. Borrower is where you're the borrowing library. So one of your patrons is borrowing an item from a different library. And then lender is where your library is sending out one of your items to another Find More Illinois locations. So you have a few options for viewing all of the outstanding requests in which your library is the borrower. I think the best way to check on the status of a patron's request is to do a title browse search to find and review the request. So I'm going to go ahead. Again, I'm in the ILL admin menu. I am in the borrower section. I'm going to select the title browse option. So this will open a list of your library's current borrower requests. So you can browse through all of the requests by scrolling the list and navigating through each page, or you can easily filter the list by the fields that are displayed here. So you have the option to filter by title, filter by patron name, etc. So here, just a heads up, a little bit of tip is that these filter boxes up at the top of each column are asking you to search exactly how the data is entered below. So if I'm looking for patron, it is looking for last name, comma, first name. So if I type in, let's say, Deborah, it's going to tell me no results are found because it's looking for that last name first. But what you could do here is make use of your wildcard symbol as a truncation element. So if I use my asterisk and type Deborah, then we can see it's correctly filtering for me. So once you find the patron's request, you can go ahead and give them an update on the status. So let's say, got a lot of test results here from our training. But let's say I'm looking here for this Days with Frog and Toad. We can see here that this request was passed to local system. Actually, that's really helpful to demo in this webinar. Passed to local systems means we owned a copy in CCS, and Shared actually placed the hold on behalf of the patron in our local ILS. But here I can see a request that is pending. So if I open this full request record, again, I can see that the request is pending, which means that it is currently on a library's list to be pulled. So hopefully that's a helpful overview of how to search and place requests in ShareIt from both the patron side and from the staff side. But if you have questions, make sure that you check out our website. We're working to build out our step-by-step documentations. And let me just show you where to access those here. If I open the CCS website at ccslib.org, I can navigate to the how-to section of our website, and kind of going down to the groupings by department, I have interlibrary loan section. If I click the interlibrary loan section, I'm going to be prompted to log in if I am not already logged in. We can see that we now have a new category here for Find More Illinois. If I expand this new category, I can see all of the documentation that we've already created. So again, this is where you're going to look to find additional training materials and documentation that have been created by CCS. If you are looking for the Share It documentation, as I mentioned earlier, in your staff dashboard, you have this support section where you can access the Share It user guide. The Share It user guide is very in-depth, so you can access different segments of the user guide through this page, which would again provide some really detailed step-by-step walkthroughs of the different features and the different modules. So for example, if I want to learn more about managing ILL requests, I can select that and I can see the documentation created by the Autographics Share It team. So if you have questions as you are launching Find More or practicing, feel free to reach out to CCS at help@ccslib.org.